what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about True North teams, the True North journey, and then I challenge everybody to consider how to potentially get more involved in some of the teams and the work that we're doing. We're one team, one goal, one community, growing together. So when I started here in 2018 full-time, we had roughly 320, 330 employees. Anyone care to guess how many employees we have today? There's no wrong answer here. Someone guess.
452.
What did you say?
452.
Anyone else?
550.
500, 550. So, Emily, you should go buy a Powerball ticket because it's 457. So 457 including PRNs. So you think about that. You think about the distribution, and you think about those people who haven't been on our team that long. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to make sure that we all understand what we're here for and what we're trying to create in terms of culture and community. So stepping back, for those who may not be super familiar, we're going to do a little bit of review. It's review for some, but it might be new content for others. You saw this during orientation when I talked to you. True North is something we developed as a strategic framework several years ago. And the reason we did that is we wanted to make sure that we were doing the things that were necessary to make us not just relevant next week, but relevant for the next generation, right? So there's a lot of changes in healthcare. No one could have ever predicted this pandemic. No one could have ever predicted the unprecedented workforce shortages that the industry is seeing. And no one's ever going to be able to predict what's going to happen in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And so you have to always be prepared to be able to adjust and adapt to whatever changes come your way. And so with our strategic framework, we tried to frame that up with broad enough yet specific enough areas to allow us to be successful if we can get really good at those. So True North is what we're shooting for. In my mind, True North is consistent with our vision, our mission, and our values. That's who we aspire to be. How do we aspire to be how do we aspire to be great? We have a framework based in process, plan, and people. So those are 3 areas of True North. And this represents kind of the compass, which is nice, but I think what's more representative, and to think about it the way that makes most sense to me, is really in kind of a pyramidal approach. So really at the foundation, and what we're going to spend all day talking about, is the people part of this. People are the foundation, right? So if you think about healthcare today, there's a lot of challenges. There's insurance networks, there's costs, there's experience, there's quality, there's all these things that we're competing on within our region, within our state, within our country. What's going to be most important for every healthcare organization, and I think this is true, this is somewhat of my opinion, but I think what's going to make healthcare organizations successful over the next 10 years is this right here. Your ability to attract and retain the best people, right? We're all competing for a limited pool of talent, more than we ever have before. This has never been more important than it is today. So starts with people. We develop people, that's our foundation. We improve process. Best example I can think about taking a disciplined approach to improving process is the work that's been done over the past few years in the emergency room. So if you remember back a few years ago, there was a lot of work done on our quality scores related to ED length of stay. Why? Because when you're in the emergency room, you have to make sure that your process gets people in and out quickly, because time is of the essence. If you have a stroke, if you have a heart attack, if you have a trauma and you're bleeding, you want to make sure that patient is elevated to a higher level of quick care as quickly as possible, because that's going to yield the best outcome. Through a disciplined approach that we adopted using lean principles, we were able to make some changes with that ED team, and the ED length of stay did this, while the ED volume did this over the past few years. And it was not only effective, but timely, because ED volumes have been elevated and stayed there since it's been harder to transfer patients up to higher levels of care. And we've been feeling that pinch for a couple of years now, and there's no real end in sight. So that's really our process. True North process is really based on process improvement with a disciplined approach based on lean principles, and then supporting a plan. And our plan is simple: build loyalty and get upstream in the patient relationship. So if we develop people, we improve process, and we're always doing those in a way that builds loyalty with the people that we serve, and we're getting upstream in the relationship, that's going to help us achieve our aspirational goals, our true north. Does that make sense? But I can't say this enough. What will determine if healthcare organizations are successful in the next 5 to 10 years is your ability to develop, attract, and retain the best talent. I don't care if you have the best clinical process in the world. I don't care if you have the best doctors in the world. I don't care if you have the best nurses in the world. If you don't have a complete team to deliver care to your community, you are not going to be successful, right? And it extends beyond just the bedside. If you don't have the best team, we were just talking this week with environmental services, and the comment was made, we really now, after the pandemic, feel like we're a part of the infection prevention team. It's like, well, you've always been a part of the infection prevention team. Shame on us for making you feel that way, but I'm glad that you feel that way now more than ever. It takes a team. Accounting, revenue cycle. If they're not making sure that they have the best talent to make sure that money's coming in the door after the work's being done, we can't keep the lights on, right? So again, our ability to develop people is going to be critical to our success moving forward. So what is True North People, for those who don't know? So a number of years ago, we engaged with Capstone Leadership Solutions, and Capstone helped us develop a model based on evidence-based practices in the workplace. So things like high in the hallway, things like employee rounding, all of those things they helped us implement. And then they helped us set up teams, which are employee-populated, leader-led teams. And what those teams do now, it's morphed a little bit, but everyone knows, because we talk about it at our employee forums every year, that we set pillar goals around our pillars of success, so workforce, quality, service, finance, and community. And what we started to do to get everybody aligned is docking those teams up to the pillars so that the work isn't done in isolation, breaking down those silos. So those people teams are docked up to those goals, and they actually help the different departments through broader strategies achieve their goals. So let's talk about service for a second. So the service team is, whether it's RCAC, whether it's the care center, whether it's med-surg, whether it's ED, we can look at the survey data that we get, whether it's our resident tenant satisfaction surveys or Press Ganey, and say, okay, we've got an issue with quietness in our facility. So that service team can start to do things like, quiet campaigns across the entire organization, or high in the hallway if we want to make people feel like they're welcomed when they come into our organization. So those people teams really leverage kind of broader philosophies and countermeasures outside of just the department's efforts to make the department work easier as they're working on their goals as well. And then of course we study and adjust at the end of the year to make sure that we either did or didn't hit our goals, reset, recalibrate, and start working on those again. That's a little bit different than what we used to do. We used to just kind of create an agenda for the teams, create an agenda as an organization in terms of goals, and hope that there was a result. We've actually brought those together to align them better than they have been in the past. We've also gone ahead and changed the names of the teams. So historically, when we first started our journey, we had the Stargazers team, Denali, Get It, Trailblazers, Wellness Team, Navigators, and Nightingales. If you're here less than a year or two, you're probably like, I have no idea who the Stargazers are. That doesn't mean much to me. So those of us that started the journey probably know, but those of us that are new and have been knee deep in the work for the last couple of years, it's probably a little bit confusing. So we went ahead this year and actually renamed plain language, just like codes, just like drills, just like alerts around the organization, plain language. We now changed that to the Workforce, Quality, Service, Community, Wellness, and Steering Team. When we condensed those teams, we actually nursing had its own team. We actually incorporated the nursing team across all of those teams. Does that make sense? Okay. So what did those teams do? So workforce, supporting efforts within the workforce pillar. High engagement, high retention. Good communication. Those are where our goals are set for the coming year, or for the past year. Those are where we're looking to set goals for the coming year. That team's working on helping to strategize to be able to maintain a high level engagement and retain employees that we bring onto our team in this organization. Quality, things like good catches. The reason that we talk about good catches so much is because our HRO team historically has beaten that into our heads and helped develop a culture of safety. It wouldn't have happened without that team, I guarantee you. Service team, high in the hallway, anybody that sees me walking down the hallway, whether it's the third time, fourth time, or sixth time you see me for the day, I'm going to say, hey, how you doing? Dave DeSera used to make fun of me when I first started working here because he's like, I know he's going to say hi to me again, even though he said it 5 times today. But those are the subtle little differences in this organization, and that's a direct result of the service team. Community, anyone know how many volunteer hours we volunteered last year as an organization? Emily, you can't answer this because you heard me say it at Business After 5. Someone guess. 700? 3,500 hours is what we donated as an organization. So everyone's heard about the recent Essentia Marshfield merger, right? So some of my work right now is related to understanding what has happened in organizations like ours when consolidation has occurred around them, whether it's down in southern part of Wisconsin, whether it's in Minnesota. I've been calling and talking to CEOs, talking to former healthcare executives about what can we expect if consolidation does occur, because we want to be ready for that. Anyone want to know what the number one thing that they all said that we should do in order to prevent any sort of disruption to our medical model in our community? Invest in our community. It wasn't insurance. It wasn't invest in the newest technology. It was make sure your relationships are strong in your community. Just like developing people from an organization standpoint, for the next 30 to 40 years, if we want to be relevant, we need to have the loyalty of this community that we serve. And that community team does a great job making sure that that is intact, and we continue to get better at that. Wellness team, we all know what the wellness team does, whether it's competition, Walktober, or just a nice little picnic. That team supports just being able to check out a little bit and rejuvenating some energy. And then steering team is comprised of co-chairs of all the teams, and they kind of act as the governance model to say, okay, let's set our strategic agenda for True North people teams this year, and then let's navigate kind of our journey for the next 12 months. Like I said, made up of co-chairs as well as senior leaders from the organization. So if you want to join a people team, so after you see what the teams are doing today, and if you do have interest, there is on the portal page under True North, there is both a team interest form and a co-chair interest form. You can fill those out, you can submit your interest, and we can try to find a place for you on one of those teams. So, wait, there's more. There's chances to win some great prizes for participating today. So make sure you complete your pre-event survey. Following the last session, complete the post-event survey, and then from those completed surveys, we're going to draw some winners for some prizes. So everybody has a lanyard. Everyone has a color. Those color-coded groups are going to be your navigating compass for today. And so when we depart here, everyone can split up, go to their representative rooms based on their color, and then we'll be shifting throughout the day. So with that, what questions can I help answer before we get started? Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for taking the time and making this a priority. This is some of the most important work we do as an organization, and I just wanted to say we sincerely appreciate it.